lesson, we'll go factoring differences of squares. At the end of the lesson, you should be able to solve equations involving differences of squares. Factoring with fractions. So a fraction is a perfect square if the numerator and the denominator are perfect squares. So if we have the square root of 4t squared over square root of 25, we could break that up and put 4t squared, the square root of 4t squared is 2t, and the square root of 25 is 5. So remember that fractions can be cleared by multiplying both sides of the equation by that common denominator. So factors for strategies for factoring. Remember, first thing, always look for your GCF. Then look at how many terms you have. If it's 4 terms, you're probably going to factor by grouping. If it's 3 terms, you're probably going to factor using product sum. And if it's 2 terms, look for the difference of squares. And remember, to solve, we have to use the zero product property. So number of solutions, each binomial is a solution. So if the GCF has a variable, then you have to set that to 0 also, which then would be 0 as a solution. If the GCF is just a number, then you do not set that to 0. So for example, in this one, it says 3y times y plus 2 times y minus 3. Since the first number, the GCF there, the 3, has a y, that has to be set equal to 0. So you would write 3y equals 0, y plus 2 equals 0, and y minus 3 equals 0. So then you get 3 answers. In this one, since there is no letter with it, it's just 3. You do not set that to 0. You must have the 3 there if you're just factoring. But if you're finding a solution, 3 is not part of your solution. All right, so for example, we have 9n squared minus 4. So that factors to, this is a perfect square, this is a perfect square with subtraction in between. So 3n minus 2 and 3n plus 2. Those both have to be set to 0. So 3n minus 2 equals 0. So 3n equals 2, n equals 2/3. 3n plus 2 equals 0. 3n equals negative 2, n equals negative 2/3. So we can write our answer as plus and minus 2/3. Let's try this next one. 4x squared. Oh, we don't have it equals 0, so I'm going to have to subtract 16 from both sides. So I'm going to start with 4x squared minus 16 equals 0. 4x squared is a perfect square. 16 is a perfect square with a subtraction in between. So 2x plus 4 and 2x minus 4. Set them both to 0. 2x plus 4 equals 0. 2x equals negative 4, so x equals negative 2. 2x minus 4 equals 0. 2x equals 4, so x is equal to 2. So my answer is plus or minus 2. All right, solve by factoring with fractions. So this, take the square root of that, would be 5/6. So that is a perfect square, and that is a perfect square. So my factors is a with a minus in between, plus 5/6, a minus 5/6. Set them both to 0. A plus 5/6 equals 0, so a is equal to negative 5/6. A minus 5/6 equals 0, so a equals 5/6. So my solution is plus or minus 5/6. In B, we have a fraction, which we all hate. So first thing I'm going to do is get rid of that fraction by multiplying everything by 2. That gets me 36 minus x squared equals 0. Perfect square with subtraction in between. So I get 6 plus x and 6 minus x. Set them to 0. 6 plus x equals 0, so x equals negative 6. 6 minus x equals 0, negative x equals negative 6, so x equals 6. So my solution is plus or minus 6. All right, solve by factoring. So the first thing I see here is, well, first thing I need to do is set this to 0. Then I notice that I have a GCF of 2, so I'm going to take that out. And now I have a difference of squares because this is a perfect square, this is a perfect with a subtraction in between. So that is 2 times x plus 5, x minus 5. And now I'm going to set them both to 0, not the 2 this time. So x plus 5 equals 0, and x minus 5 equals 0. So x equals negative 5, and x equals positive 5. So my solution is plus or minus 5. On B, I could see that first I'm going to change this so it equals 0. So minus 48r equals 0. And this one, my GCF is 3r. So I factor that out, and I get r squared minus 16 equals 0. The r squared is perfect, 16 is perfect with subtraction in between, so 3r times r plus 4, r minus 4, oops, and then it equals 0, and I set them both to, now I have to set all three to 0, because this has a variable, 3r equals 0, r plus 4 equals 0, and r minus 4 equals 0. So r equals 0, r equals negative 4, and r equals 4. So this time my solution is negative 4, 0, 4. Typically we write our set of numbers in numerical order. All right, the super problem. So we have 5x cubed plus 15x squared minus 5x minus 15. So you can see that there's a GCF in all of them. You could start by taking that out, or you could start by factor by grouping. So I'm going to do that. There's definitely more than one way to solve this problem. So if I group it like that, my GCF over here is 5x squared, and that would leave me x plus 3. In this one, my GCF is going to be negative 5, which leaves me x plus 3. So 5x squared minus 5 times x plus 3. X plus 3 is done, but I see here I have 5 as a GCF, so x squared minus 1 times x plus 3. And now I see this is a perfect square, this is a perfect square with a subtraction in between. So 5, x plus 1, x minus 1, x plus 3. Now I have to set them all to 0, not the 5 though, because there's not a variable with it. So x plus 1 equals 0, x minus 1 equals 0, x plus 3 equals 0. So my solution, x equals negative 1, x equals 1, x equals negative 3. So my solution is going to be negative 3, negative 1, 1. The U.S. Coast Guard must decide how thick of a line to purchase based on its breaking strength. The basic breaking strength, B, in pounds for a natural fiber line is determined by the formula below, where C is the circumference of the line in inches. What circumference of natural line would have 8,100 pounds of breaking strength? So it says that my breaking strength is B. And here it's telling me that my breaking strength is 8,100 pounds. So all I'm going to do is fill in the 8,100 for B. Then I divide both sides by 900. And I get C squared equals 9, which means I take the square root of both sides, and C equals 3. So, okay, so what are the three techniques for factoring? We got GCF, we got factor by grouping, and we got difference of squares. Zero product property states that If the answer is 0, one of the factors must be 0.